When you're doing your tests, make sure you get all the things in place when you're doing a test. And we've talked a lot about these. Again, same driver, same route, same load, same fuels, but make sure that they're giving you 2 or 3 pieces of equipment. Don't just pick one, because invariably they'll give you one piece of equipment that's got problems. So pick a minimum of 3 pieces of equipment when you're doing a test. Make sure that those tests are run under the same type of conditions, the very best that you possibly can. Have them give them a log and meet with the drivers and meet with the owners and meet with the mechanics and explain to them how this test is going to go and what they're supposed to do, that we don't want them to change their driving habits. We want them to drive the same way all the time, but be conscious of what they're doing. And if you're tracking the load and putting them in logs and doing all those kind of things, then you should see the results that come back through it.
To run a test, you really have to decide that that's what you're going to do, is run a test. And there's a certain amount of discipline that each person has to follow to ensure that they do justice and that they're fair to the test protocol. It's not a viable test just to go out and get in your car, put the catalyst in, start driving, and expect to see improvements. There are certain responsibilities that one needs to take upon themselves in order to conduct a viable test. Most people don't want to do that. Most people just want to put it in their fuel and see a reaction and see a 10% improvement. You can't expect to go to Chevron one day, fill up and put the fuel in the car and add the catalyst, and then go to Costco and fill up a week later and put your catalyst in and expect that you're going to see the same fuel consumption, because even in gasoline, specific gravity ranges sufficiently between the different manufacturers. I know, I've tested many of them. And just changing fuel suppliers can change your fuel consumption on your car. So if you really want to find out how this product works in your vehicle, then you have to take the onus. You have to take a little responsibility and make sure that you're trying to take a scientific approach to this and not just a hand grenade approach, thinking that just throwing it in the tank is all you need to do. If I have a fleet of vehicles, obviously I'm not going to put it in the fleet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 6 or 7 vehicles. And those 6 or 7 vehicles are going to be vehicles that I know run basically the same route every day. Those vehicles are going to have the same operator or operators in them every day. Those vehicles are going to be filled from the same fuel source every day, the same fuel supplier every day. They follow the same process all the time. Driving into a headwind versus driving with a tailwind. Tire pressure, driving angry. If you leave your house that morning and you had an argument with your wife, or one of your kids got on your wrong side, those things affect fuel consumption tests. But probably the most significant effect on fuel consumption is time. It's one thing to say that I'm driving this vehicle the same 210 miles round trip every day. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to do it in the same amount of time. Time now becomes a question. Because if you're driving at 75 miles an hour and it takes you longer to complete the trip than it did the day previous at 75 miles an hour, something affected the time on that trip. Either high headwinds, high crosswinds, somebody stopped for a few minutes and let the truck idle. So there are so many things that can adversely affect a test.